Hey guys, welcome back today, and we're going to be going over a pretty simple question, and that is, what is Hema? Now, to people outside the community who ask this question to us, we give them the answer of historical European martial arts, man. And a lot of them still give us the deer in the headlights look of, what? What do you mean? So today we're going to break this down to a really simple format, starting with where it came from, how it evolved, and what it is nowadays. So let's go and jump right in. And where Hema came from was experimental archaeology, which is archaeology at its most basic. And to give an example, we're going to say we'll use an example of a shield and an axe found from migration era Europe. Okay, so an archaeologist finds an old rusty axe head, battle axe, so we knew it was used in combat, and a old tattered shield, and he studies these two objects, finds out how they were made and what materials are in them, and all these details about them. But he doesn't know exactly how that axe and shield were used. So, knowing all the background information about them, he can have historically accurate replicas made of them, and then he can go, okay, now I have something I can work with now. So he can use them, work around with them, and see, using common sense and a very simple old school of trial and error to see how does this work. Maybe have a friend of his get another shield and another axe, or maybe another weapon from the same time period, and go, okay, kind of working slow. Okay, and I'll use my Hadji for example on my invisible shield. Okay, I find it pretty easy to hold my shield right up here and come out like this, come underneath, or go around the side of my shield. Okay, that works. Now, let's say they get more archaeological evidence, and it's bones from a battlefield around the same area, around the same time. And they notice, okay, we have a few different kinds of injuries, and something that's really, let's say, kind of prevalent, and we have a few examples of this, is some kind of nick on maybe the left leg, behind the knee, or somewhere in that area, and a death blow to the chest and to the head, or the head from a axe-shaped object. Okay, so we have what was used and what happened, or what was the result of them being used, but we don't know how they were used. So using that end result, they can now practice. Okay, we know these, we'll just say that there was a chest injury into the left collarbone, cleaved in half into the neck, broke the spine, and death. Okay, we know that's how they died, but there's also this nick in the back of the knee. Now, it could have been an old injury from some incident, something like that, just living life, but there's a few other people with similar injuries. So we kind of want to figure out how, where does this come from? Okay, I did a little bit of figuring out back with wannabe Viking axe or wannabe Dark Age axe and Invisible shield. Okay, we find out, okay, so this nick could have been from using the beard of the axe to hook back beneath that leg and pull back, thus grappling and tripping them. Okay, now I can swing it back around and get that death blow. Okay, so now we've just found out a historical technique using experimental archaeology. Now, this later evolved into, and now there's other forms of this too, of how we get these historical techniques, but I'll get to that in a second. So this kind of evolved, and a lot of people outside the archaeological community would watch movies and see these guys with these big old axes or these big old swords from fantasy movies, or maybe historical pieces which really aren't historically accurate, Braveheart, and they would watch them and go, oh, that's so cool, I want to learn that. So they go, they maybe get a cheap wall hanger, maybe even get a good practice sword, and maybe have a buddy, and they try it, and they find out through trial and error that's not the truth. So there's some more experimentation, and through more knowledge and resources and all kinds of the archaeology and all that fun stuff, they find out more techniques, and it evolved from trying to figure out what it was to a more common practice. People learning more about it, people teaching more people about it, and almost kind of a rebirth of historical fencing or sword fighting or historical fighting techniques, wrestling, and all kinds of stuff. So that's kind of how it evolved. Now, what has it evolved into? Now, HEMA nowadays, a lot of it is really, a lot of people start studying stuff from the High Middle Ages, which, to give a quick breakdown of the Middle Ages, you have, well, basic timeline, you have ancient history, Middle Ages, modern era. So, you got the ancient stuff, Dark Ages, so we're going to take them, now we're going to zoom in onto the Middle Ages. We got the Dark Ages, High Middle Ages, Late Middle Ages, Renaissance right there on the tad bit in. A lot of it starts right there at the High Middle Ages. Now, the reason why a lot of HEMA techniques and a lot of HEMA disciplines start in the Middle Ages is because we have a lot more textual evidence spelling it out, telling us what to do, with pictures included. These examples can be stuff like I-33, and then later on in the 15th century, we have Talhofer and Fiore, for example. I'm still learning a lot of them. I mainly started under Myers, which is a little bit it was more in the 16th century. Then I do a lot of the 15th century stuff. And the reason why these are more prevalent is because we have something we can go, translate, print copies of. You know, granted, we do have the experimental archaeology for everything before then, with a lot of the Dark Ages stuff, since there wasn't as much writing, but we still have, picking up, trying it out. Now, there are a few exceptions to the rules, which I will mention right quick, and that is Roman and Greek. Reason why these two are the exceptions is because, well, Rome, a lot of artwork, very complex society, writing, really complex military system, so there's evidence that survived to tell us this is how it happened. The same thing kind of goes with the Greeks, because the Greeks have a lot of statues, writing, artwork, and plus they had a little bit more bronze. They had bronze, which bronze is not, the bronze stays a lot better than iron or steel does, because it doesn't react as easily. This is why you can find, 5,000-year-old swords from China that are still sharp, because there's nothing to degrade it, because the bronze doesn't, it only patinas. But going back to HEMA. So we have a lot of this stuff that starts off in the High Middle Ages, when writing did become prevalent. A lot of people were becoming knights. We had what would become a little bit closer to the vision of a knight in shining armor, which is really from the 15th century. But we have kind of the Knights Templar and the Crusades, and we have a lot more stuff that a lot of people associate with the Middle Ages than the Dark Ages. But we can we have a lot of teaching, a lot more writing, so we can go and study these. The main one I know from this time period, someone who knows more than me, correct me down in the comments, is I-33. So after this, we have a lot more, but a lot of people like to study longsword, because who doesn't like a large, two-handed, double-edged sword? I don't know a lot of people who don't. Or a lot of people study rapier, a lot of people study sword and buckler, rapier and buckler. A lot of techniques where we have a plentiful amount of textual evidence. So you could say HEMA is the study of these texts and executing it. And so that's what it is nowadays. Now, what kind of people do HEMA? Really, there's so many different kinds of people who do HEMA. And when I say so many different kinds, I literally mean people from like me, a 16-year-old boy, to little old ladies with white hair. You think I'm kidding? I've actually gone to class with one. It was one time in Texas, and I'll be honest, I didn't think that girl, or that woman, because she could have been my grandmother, I didn't think I would learn anything from her. I thought, okay, I'm mainly going to learn some of the teachers and the people who are a little bit younger, a little bit more, who can move and don't have the threat of falling and breaking the hip. But she actually taught me a few things, and I'm like, wow, don't judge a book by its cover. So a lot of people can do it. I do it because I love getting out there, I love trying to do these techniques, and I love just trying to learn how they fight, because as I said in my welcome video, I am extremely interested in HEMA because of really of the history. I'm a big history buff, and I was really one of more the Dark Ages and the Norse and the Viking era, but sadly my club doesn't offer that, so I fell in love with the 15th century. But there's also other people who like to do it. People, not just history buffs, but people who love martial arts. I know a few people who have done, all kinds of martial arts: taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, karate, kung fu, kendo, all of them. And they're like, oh, this is another skill, and they'll jump right in. And there's a few minute things that are different because different part of the globe, different culture, and they love learning it because it can be completely different, but very similar to what they already know. Because HEMA is also not just sword fighting. A lot of people get that misconception. It is literally wrestling, how to deal with an armed opponent, anything from rondelle daggers, regular daggers, to one-handed swords, two-handed swords, great swords, axes, spears. Now, granted, it does cover all this because it does cover from, you could say, right at the dawn of history, 10,000 BC to 1900, to up to the First World War, with sabers and starting with basically with basic bronze weapons up to sabers, the late sabers and late cavalry. So HEMA, a lot of people can do it. So really, you can easily sum HEMA up with the statement that HEMA is a intellectual study and a exercise of learning the culture, history, and the fighting techniques of Europe in historical context. So if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, and if you want more content like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Till then, see you next time.